What is going on, everybody, and welcome back once again. My name is Jordan, also known as JMonster. Thank you for joining me for another replay battle. Today I have what is probably my new favorite battle. Of the 300 videos I've put up on my channel, this is my favorite. It has got everything. Sneaky tactics, good teamwork, aggressive play, and ambushes. Beautiful, beautiful ambushes that really have a great overall impact on the game. So without any further ado, let's get into the army comps and then into the replay itself. I hope you guys enjoy it. The first army we're going to look at today is the Forces of Lorien, being commanded by Sawbones McTavish. He's brought two. This is a very archer-heavy force. In fact, everybody in this game is very archer-heavy, so there's a lot of skirmishing. So prepare yourself. It is very, very long. But in any case, Sawbones bringing 2 units of Sylvan Heavy Archers. He's also got a couple units of Elder Council, 2 units of Woodland Warriors, pretty decent enough medium-tier shock troops. They are strong on the charge, and they've got AP too, so they're not bad for felling trees and heavy infantry alike. Over here we've got 1 of his 3 units of Sylvan Heavy Swords, 2 units of Sentinels of the Woodland Realm, 3 units of Sylvan Heavy Spearmen to form his main line. And he's also got, where are they? They are hiding back here. He's got 1 unit of Galadrim Mounted Company. He's got 1 unit of Sindar Archers, and last but certainly not least, I wonder where he's put them. He's got a unit of Galadrim Veterans hanging out around here, which is very strong. Them and the Sindar Archers are both some of the few AP Archers that are still left in the game, which is a trait that will be going away in patch 0.95. So get in, get your AP arrows while you can get them. It is AP Arrow Black Friday, and take advantage of it while you still can. But that basically does it for his army. I think he's also got a ballista located somewhere in here as well, but they all seem to be hiding out somewhere. So let's move on to the forces of his ally, that being Dol Amroth, commanded by Vislak. He's got 3 units of Athelon Halberdiers, very sexy, very deadly. The Athelon Halberdiers are super strong. Strong enough, in fact, that I think they're getting toned down a little bit in 0.95. It's not going to be a huge nerf, so don't, lose your pants over it. But they are definitely taking a hit to their power because they're just maybe a little bit too strong, at least in the opinion of the developers and the testers. But in any case, 4 units of Dol Amroth Men-at-Arms, 1 unit of Trebuchet, 1 unit of Ballista, making that a very strong artillery force, which is going to be excellent on a map like Anduin. He's also got 2 units of Knights of the Silver Swan, 1 of which has his general hanging out in them. He's also got 3 units of Tirthair Marksmen, 1 unit of, I can't remember what they're called, Nimrodel Rangers, who are, again, AP arrows. Very cheap AP arrows as well, only costing about 700 or so to bring them. They're excellent. They can hide anywhere, so if they come under fire, they can immediately go into camouflage and avoid that sort of thing. It is a very, very strong unit. Moving on now to the third and final member of what I'm going to conveniently call Blue Team, mostly because most of their icons are blue. We have the forces of Sin of the Dark Cloud, one of the developers of Third Age Reforged. He's brought 1 unit of Dunedain Bodyguard, and you can't see most of them. And this is why I love Anduin as a map. There are so many places to hide. It's got a lot of interesting terrain. It's actually got a mountain pass choke point over there. It's got a couple of river choke points, 2 there and 1 across the way there. You can see that where the brown deployment zone is. And it's got the opportunity for you to set up some pretty interesting ambushes. So all around, this is probably the most tactical map I think that is available in Reforged. And my personal hope, my dream even, is that we will see more maps like Anduin in the future. So if any of the developers are watching this, I know Sin of the Dark Cloud is definitely going to be, please, 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 please. But in any case, moving on to Sin of the Dark Cloud's army, he's got, it's going to be hard because most of them are hidden. He's got 3 units, I believe, of Dunedain Rangers, just going off memory here. And he's got 1 unit of Troll Slayers, 3 or 4 units of Arthedain Men-at-Arms, 1 unit of the dismounted Dunedain Knights, and I think that's most. No, he's got some Hobbit Archers in there as well. Don't forget the Hobbit Archers, 1 or 2 units of Hobbit Archers, and I think that just about does it for most of his force. Now he's got a couple units of dismounted Arthedain Knights in there as well, who are the 2-handed variant of the Arthedain Men-at-Arms. Very strong, decent on the charge, and I think you can bring 2 of them before you get a prohibitive price increase. Moving on the other direction, let's take a look at what Team Red has brought to bear today. The first red team army we're looking at is the forces of Gundabad, being commanded by Age? I don't know how you'd pronounce that properly, but there's his name. You can come to your own conclusions. He's got Actually, most of his army is hidden, so I'm just going to have to go off memory here. He's got 1 unit of Witch Realm Pikemen, I believe 3 units of Goblin Trackers, so I think are hanging out over here, or at the very least, no, here they are. You can see they've set up a multi-tiered stake defense, which is really a good idea, especially facing Arnor and Dol Amroth. Both factions have access to some devastating heavy cavalry, so this thing right here is actually going to play an important part in the battle in helping to deal with some cavalry, and you guys will see exactly what that's all about in just a little while. I believe he's also got 4 units of Halberds, 2 units of Scourge Raiders, 2 units of Guardians of Karn Doom. He's got 1 unit of Blackguard. You can see it right here with his general inside of it, using it as a bodyguard unit. He's also got a unit of Snow Trolls. I think he's got a couple units of Warwick Skirmishers as well. Other than that, I can't quite remember everything else that he's brought, but don't worry, there will be a little snapshot of his army comp. Moving on now to, I love this. This is the forces of Von Mountain, who is going to be commanding Eriador. I love when people bring Eriador. Eriador does have the possibility to be strong, but it is a little bit weaker than other factions. I think that's because of its propensity towards ambush units and ambush tactics. At least that's my understanding from speaking to the developers. So Eriador is a little bit weaker, kind of the equivalent of an Orcish faction in a lot of ways, in terms of the quality and the cost that it takes to bring units. But in any case, I digress. Von Mountain bringing a couple units of 4 Shell Heavy Swords, 4 units of Merchant Militia. He's got a ton of archers, and I don't even know where they all are. There's so much hidden stuff here. He's also got a lot of cav as well. I think most of it's in here. He's got some Cardolan Elders, 3 units of Dunedain Rangers. He's also got some Forcho Captains, which is where his general's bodyguard is going to be. I'm not too sure where they all are, though. They're all very nicely hidden at the moment. Well, I think this might be his captains over here. Nope, that's not them. These would be his captains. Yes, indeed. He's also got a unit of Trebuchet. I think he's got 2 units of Greenway Sentries, the mounted variant, who are pretty decent against cavalry and armor. And he's also got a couple units of Merchant Cavalry. That's about all I can remember. So let's move on to his ally now, the 3rd and final Red Team member. This is WK, again, one of the developers of 3rd Age Reforged. I think he mostly focuses on maps and things like that. So a lot of the new map content is going to be, I think, split pretty well between him and Sin of the Dark Clouds, and units and things like that are taken over, I think, by Kuro and also, again, Sin of the Dark Cloud. But in any case, WK bringing a couple units of Woodsmen. This is a really heavy archer faction, or archer lineup, as you would expect from Dale. 2 units of Woodsmen, one of them has his general in it. He's also got a unit of Dragon Slayers, a couple units of Elder Avari archers, 3 units of Dalian Marksmen. I don't know if I can see them just yet, but there's also a couple units of the Bardian Marksmen in here as well. His infantry line consists of 1 unit of Paladins. Not too sure where they're hiding out right now. Yeah, they're the 2 Bardian Marksmen. I think most of them are in here. He's got a unit of Paladins, a couple units of Dalesmen, who are light shock infantry, kind of a throwaway unit. Just think of them as orcs. They can do a little bit of damage before they rout, but they have such a low defense that they will inevitably be wiped out. He's also got a couple units of Barding Herd, 1 unit of Rivermen, because why wouldn't you bring the Rivermen as Dale? They're really strong javelin units for what it costs to bring them. You can bring, I think, 2 before you get a price increase. And even after the price increase, I don't think that they're all that expensive comparative to other units on Dale's roster. And I believe he's also got 1 unit of Lake Town Pikemen. So that just about does it for the army comps. Let's go ahead and get into the replay. Now, as the battle opens up, we can see both sides preparing themselves for some delicious, lovely skirmishing. The elves are definitely going to have an edge in this against just about any other faction except maybe Dale. Now, their AP archers will be able to do a number on these Dalian marksmen, but the rest of their main line not going to do quite so well. Though the Dalian marksmen a little bit too bunched up, and you can see that the artillery pieces from Dol Amroth already beginning to open fire on them. In addition to that elven, that withering elven volley, that means that these Dalian marksmen may not be able to stick around for quite so long as perhaps WK needs them to. One little note about the Dalian marksmen, though, a good reason to keep them alive is that once they use up their ammunition, I think they have a little bit less ammunition than most bowmen, but once they use it up, they're actually pretty able melee infantry as well. So, yeah, definitely want to try and keep their numbers up if at all possible. And you can see the entire, or a significant portion rather, of the Dalian skirmish line being brought to bear against the elves, and a lot of these like lower tier units here are on the front lines, like the Sentinels of the Woodland Realm. They don't have a lot of armor, but they do have elven accuracy and pretty decent damage, so they will be able to harry those Dalian marksmen in a big way. But when it comes to taking counterfire, these guys will Wither, and you can already see it beginning to happen over here. Although, actually, I think their target right now is the Sylvan Heavy Archers, and there's a little bit of runoff into the Sentinels of the Withering Realm. Sylvan Heavy Archers, not Citadel Heavy Archers, are quite vulnerable to that Withering Fire as well. That's 10 missile damage coming in from the Dalian Marksman, and that's more than enough to get past the low armor values of these Sylvan Elves. Now I'm going to take a quick pop on over to the other end, and this is going to be... You're going to want to make a note of this, because Gundabad is going to be here for quite some time. The action is going to kind of ping-pong between the two sides, and then it's going to culminate in a giant, massive team fight finale. So for the time being, Gundabad is going to be staying over here, and Sin of the Dark Cloud is pretty well biding his time. You can see he's not really moving too much out. The only thing that's really visible right now is his Dune 9 bodyguard, though he does have some cav up here. I think I forgot to mention that. He's got a unit of Numinos Knights, Arnor bodyguards, and Arnor Knights. So he does have a fairly able cavalry force at his disposal, but unfortunately for a red team, they don't even know that it's there. Moving back over now to the skirmish fight between Dale and the Sylvan Elves. You can see that Dale is now beginning to retreat, coming in with his second line of archers. Don't know if I mentioned the Elder of Archers. I think I did. Very strong units. They are definitely capable of going toe-to-toe with the Elves, but I believe they have a little bit of a lower armor value. So like the other Elven archers, they will be low on the armor value and therefore easy to shoot down. You can see a lot of archers here from Dale now retreating, not really wanting to stay toe-to-toe with those Elven archers for an extended period, and I don't blame him. Look at the damage these Dalian marksmen took. Normally, these guys stand up to it really well. They are a range superiority unit, absolutely, with those shields, able to stand up to most fire, but the accuracy that these guys can bring to bear, along with the high missile damage, it does take its toll, and you can see it over there on the other end of the field. So there's a little bit of cat and mouse at the moment, and both sides are kind of pulling back, licking their wounds a little bit. The Elves definitely came out on top in the initial skirmish engagement, although I think they got a unit of their heavy archers pretty well wiped out, and this unit of Sentinels of the Wooden Realm is now down to half HP. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fast forward just a little bit. There's a lot of fast forwarding that needs to be done in this battle. Just a lot of dead space and not a lot of skirmishing going on. So yes, this will be the first of many cuts. I will see you guys in just a few moments. Now, on the other end of the banks of the Anduin, it looks like Gundabad has sent out a little scouting force here, trying to probe the defenses. He doesn't see most of Arnor's army, so he's just going to try and figure out exactly where they are, suss out any hidden troops, and kind of weigh his options on whether or not he wants to sally across there. Now, he's going to be pretty well outnumbered. Dol Amroth is in a good spot to reinforce Arnor if they get themselves into any trouble with the Orcs of Gundabad. And if Gundabad falls, that does leave the a very significant opening in the lines of Team Red. If Gundabad is wiped out, it's going to be a very simple matter for Arnor to come in from the rear, while Dol Amroth and Lorien keep the other two players, the Eriador and the Dale player, pinned, and then smash them between their three armies. So Gundabad really has an important role to play here, so he's going to hold his ground for quite some time, and he's actually going to pull back there with his unit of Warg Riders. And one thing I want to note is that look how close he was just a little while ago to the rest of Sin's army. This is a big surprise here, that if the Gundabad player had got just a little bit closer to figure out exactly what Arnor has and where it is, then he might have saved himself a lot of trouble later on down the line. But I'm not going to spoil anything for you. You'll see exactly what happens with that. But for now, the Warg Riders going to be pushing forward onto this little dale here, to try and suss out any other hidden forces. And it looks like he's going to make for the mountain pass, which is, I'm not too sure why he's doing that. It may be that he's trying to circumvent that unit of archers and scout out the rear of what he believes is the Arnorian position, and it is going to put him behind the stakes of the Arnor player. So if he has an opportunity to maybe get some rear charges or some fairly efficient trades with the hidden Arnor forces, then I think he's going to try and go for it. But it may be his target all along is this one unit of Dune 9 bodyguard here. These guys are real scary. AP arrows, AP and melee as well. Don't want to play no games with the Arnor bodyguard. But let's pop back over onto the other end. Looks like some more skirmishing going down here. WK using his woodsmen, his lower tier archers, to try and waste a little bit of time and ammunition for this Sylvan Elf player. Now those low tier archers like the Woodmen, they have enough damage that they will trade fairly cost efficiently with a unit like, say, the Sentinels of the Woodland Realm. These guys are still really deadly despite their low tier status because they are elves and because they are so accurate. And that's one thing to note, is that the Elven Archers, super accurate, something that is going to go away, from my understanding, in 0.95. I don't think it's going to be quite as extreme as it is right now. I think it will be higher, but definitely not the sniper rifles, basically, with bows that the elves are right now. And I think they're also going to lose a little bit of the range, so you won't see quite the extreme range for either side. So it'll be a little bit more, in my opinion, tactical and interesting. Now over here we can see the Gladder Mounted Company looking like maybe they want to sweep in here. They don't really know what the other side has. They could be trying to do the same thing that Gundabad is doing, just trying to suss out the enemy positions and knowing exactly what they're dealing with before they move in and commit their forces, which is a wise, very prudent decision. So well done to the Lothlorien player there. It's going to want to be careful. Oh my, this is going to be... Oh, I would have laughed really hard if that happened. But let's move on over to the side of the Orcs of Gundabad. You can see these Warg Riders now winded. Probably didn't need to run the entirety of the way around here. Although, to be fair, they are in missile range of those Dunedain Bodyguard, but they're pretty well protected by this hill, so there's no need to get them tired. I would even just have them sit here and wait, maybe waste some of that ammunition from the Dunedain Bodyguard. There's not really a whole lot going on here, and as far as he knows, this whole area is pretty well open. So those Orcs should be relatively safe behind that hill. I would let them sit there and kind of recoup their fatigue or their stamina a little bit. These Wargs, though, relentless, just not even gonna give themselves time to rest. They're gonna move forward towards that Dunedain Bodyguard, and it looks like it was a trap all along by Sin of the Dark Cloud. The Gundabad player triggering his trap card, the Arnor Knights, Arnor Bodyguard, and indeed the Knights of Anuminas, the full strength of the Arnor cavalry roster, gonna be barreling towards those Warg Riders who are being picked off by the Dunedain Bodyguard. Yeah, they're gonna want to get out of there as quickly as possible, but it looks like Sin of the Dark Cloud moving in on all sides with his much more fast-moving cavalry. The Knights of Anuminas lagging behind, but over here the bodyguards definitely fast enough to get a piece of these guys. They are going to clip them, and that's going to hold them down long enough to bring those Knights of Anuminas to bear. Now, normally the Wargs would trade reasonably well, especially on the charge with a unit of bodyguards. You can see they're already beginning to smack them down, despite the fact that they were caught kind of on the back foot by those Warg Riders. Nonetheless, taking down some of this cavalry, and in from behind, Knights of Anuminas, the bodyguards, just relentlessly chasing these guys down. Looks like they have resigned themselves to their fate. They are now very tired, pretty well unable to escape the more swiftly moving cavalry units of Arnor. They're just going to double down, YOLO, and go straight for that Dunedain Bodyguard. Now, I think this is where Sin of the Dark Cloud is going to be keeping his general, so they may be trying to assassinate that Arnor general right off the bat, and they are going to take down some of the Dunedain Bodyguard, but locked in melee like this, those Warg Riders, especially, looks like the Elves now have come to the aid of Arnor. The Warg Riders are going to find themselves overmatched, rout, and that's pretty well the only thing we're going to see from them. The Elven Cavalry more than fast enough to run these very tired Wargs down, and that's going to be the end of that unit and the end of Gundabad's probing assault on the other end of the banks of the Anduin. Now, it is going to slow down from here, so I'm going to fast forward just a little bit. I will see you guys in a few moments. And we're back, and there's a few important troop movements that I want to call your attention to. The first, and I think most important, is that Sawbones McTavish has actually brought over a significant number of his infantry. He's got his 2 units of Woodland Warriors and his Sylvan Heavy Swordsmen, who have made their way over to this end of the battle. And the forces of Arnor as well, slowly but surely moving towards the position occupied by Gundabad, that one river choke point that the blue team could really make some serious use of. So over on the other end, you can see the cavalry from the Kingdom of Arnor moving around through the mountain pass, and over on this side, you got a couple units of those Hobbit archers just going for a nice little leisurely stroll out by the banks of the Anduin. Well, these 2 units of Hobbit archers, if Gundabad has any hidden units over on this side, things could go super poorly for them. Let's go ahead and let's fast forward here, and let's see what exactly this little walk here is going to amount to. You can see the Arnor cavalry has already made it through the pass, and they have already begun to converge on the Hobbit's position. But look at this. This is where it gets real bad for those hobbits. There's actually a hidden unit here of Warg Skirmishers, one of Gundabad's many, many hidden units, and they are now barreling headlong into the ranks of the Shire folk. Now, this is not going to be fun for them at all. Now, they have managed to do, just through sheer numbers, a decent amount of damage to the HP of the Wargs, knocking down a few of them before they managed to connect, but that one unit of Hobbit archers just disappeared, and it's probably going to start to rout now. Looks like those Warg Skirmishers are reforming, and they're going to charge straight in to the rest of these Hobbit archers. This is they're not an important amount of archers, but they definitely have a part to play, especially against some of the units that Gundabad has, like the Orc Halberdiers, for example, or these Scourge Raiders. They can be a really nice, cost-effective method of dealing with scary AP infantry units, like some of the cheaper Gundabad units. Unfortunately, these Wargs were not able to get their charge off in time because they had to turn around and just flee in the face of that unit of bodyguard. The Sin of the Dark Cloud doesn't want to get too close to these guys. Chasing down Warg Skirmishers with heavy cavalry, they can't catch them immediately, can really be hard on your heavy cavalry. The Warg Skirmishers have AP javelins that they toss behind them as they flee. Ooh, that was real close. Gundabad managed to stomp there just in time to avoid being impaled on his own stakes. Now those Warg Riders gonna just take a nice safe stroll through the stake line and back through the second and third lines, and then through the pikes again. But that was that could have been real bad for Gundabad if he was just a little bit late on getting that on hitting that stop button. Over on this side, because of the absence of so much of Sawbones McTavish's force on the other end of the map, which he made sure that he was going to let the other two see, the forces of Von Mountain, backed up by Dale, they're actually going to make a push here. You can see the Cardinal Elders, really elite bowman unit that I think has 2 HP and some pretty significant bow damage and range as well. They can definitely go toe-to-toe with a lot of the Elven archers and even the infantry on the other side there. They can shoot them down quite nicely. Yeah, these merchant militia heading towards this pass here, looking like those two allies, Dale and Eriador, want to try and overwhelm the forces of Sawbones McTavish. Now that he has weakened himself and spread himself a little bit too thin, now this may be device on the part of the elves. This could be a really good way to deal with a lot of infantry from Eriador and a lot of the archers from Dale. You can see in the back, Dalian marksmen fanning out, taking battle positions, getting ready to rain hell on the Sylvan Elves once they show their faces. Many of them are hidden right now, but they are going to have to answer the challenge that these merchant militia are posing to them. And it looks like they are going to rise to the occasion. Sentinels of the Woodland Realm begin to open fire on the merchants as they move across the pass, and that's going to give the Dalian marksmen the opportunity to fire into them. And because of their positioning here, this is a little bit of a positioning goof, I think, on the part of Sawbones. The Elder Royal Council are going to get caught in that crossfire. So those Sentinels of the Woodland Realm taking pretty heavy casualties and just a few volleys from the Dalian marksmen. They do a lot of damage, and the Elder Council rather also taking some light losses as well. Over on this end, the merchants have managed to ford the crossing, and they have breached the stake wall here on two ends essentially. They're just looking for those hidden units. They know that they're here. Everyone's got hidden units. And Von Mountain just wants to figure out exactly where they are and what he is dealing with. See the second wave, merchant militia moving in as well. I think this is when Dale also begins to move up their forces. Another couple heavy infantry units here from Von Mountain, but I know that the Dalish forces do begin to move forward in pretty short order. Dol Amroth, in response to this push across, has moved up his 3 companies of Tirthair marksmen, and this is going to put the red team in a little bit of a crossfire here. Not the kind of position they want to be in, but someone needs to attack here. Something's got to give, and looks like those merchant militia have found their targets, and they're going to barrel right towards the Elder Council. The Elder Council kiting them backwards, which is going to leave them a little bit isolated. And now the Sylvan Spears counter-charging into the merchant militia. I think there's a few Sylvan archers in there as well. Those merchant militia are going to find themselves overmatched in the face of these elite Sylvan warriors, especially with that hill advantage. But it does tie them down enough, I think, for WK to just pour in that ranged support. You can see he's got the Dalian marksman on the other end, really targeting this blob, which is what he wants. Now, this is going to be a nice trade, I think, for Eriador and Dale. He's going to throw away some of his cheap Eriador infantry, only costing about 400 or so to bring, and in exchange, he's going to be able to destroy a unit of Sylvan Heavy Archers and a unit of Spearmen as well. Over here you can see a charge by the Sylvan Heavy Swordsman into the Merchant Militia. That's going to be very, very bad for the Merchant Militia, but it does put them within striking distance of much of Dale's skirmish force. And they're going to be able to focus fire down on these Sylvan Elves as well. And really, if they hit a few of the Merchant Militia, not that big of a deal. They're going to start to rout pretty quickly anyway. Those Sylvan Swordsmen just carving them up. But this is definitely an opportunity for the forces of Dale to get some decent shots off on that elite unit. Over here, the Sylvan Heavy Spearmen doing their best. Sylvan Heavy Archers on this end charging into the Merchant Militia, trying to avoid an encirclement of the Sylvan Heavy Spearmen. But there's just too many of these Merchant Militia and not enough Heavy Archers. They are actually going to lose in the face of those I would say low-tier Heavy Infantrymen. Over here, the Merchant Militia looking like they want to get a piece of that the Sylvan Elf skirmish line, not wanting to let them bring those strong bowmen to bear, and just trying to keep them scattered and not firing above all. Over here, another counter charge by the Sylvan Heavy Spearmen into the Merchant Militia, and with a little bit of backup here from Dol Amroth in the form of their Knights of the Silver Swan. Very scary, well-armored 2 HP Knights. I think this is going to turn into an ugly reversal for Von Mountain, who was really doing quite well for a while. Looks like Von Mountain now brings some of his own cavalry across the Anduin. He's got a unit of merchants here, backed up with some Bardian marksmen. Dalian marksmen. Looks like Dale is bringing in a couple of units of Earls as well. Totally forgot about the Earls. And this fight just got real. Over here, the Sylvan Heavy Swordsmen charging hard into the Dalian marksmen. They're going to get caught up, however, with the Earls, but it is going to delay the Earls just a few moments, perhaps long enough for the Knights of the Silver Swan to do their work. Glider Mounted Company backing up their heavy cavalry unit, striking back at the forces of Von Mountain, scattering a unit of Merchant Militia and charging into the flank of another. These Merchant Militia not really having a good time here. They're already thinking about routing. We could see this battle line from Von Mountain begin to evaporate in just a few moments. Over on this end, though, a couple units of Merchant Militia managing to hold out reasonably well against Sylvan Heavy Spearmen. However, their high defense and shield stats are going to keep these guys alive, and you can see that these Merchant Militia not really trading all that effectively with those heavy spears. This unit of Merchant Militia looking like they're trying to hightail it back towards the relative safety of the rest of the lines. No, I see what they're trying to do. Trying to encircle a significant portion of Sabmos McTavish's line. Some of the Sylvan Heavy Spearmen just pushed way too far forward, trying to get a piece of those Dalian marksmen. They are going to get caught up with a couple units of the Barding Herd. High damage AP Halberdmen, along with the attack from the rear now from the Merchant Militia and the presence of these Dalish Earls in the back. I think this is going to be a reversal here. Somehow the Sylvan Elves got themselves a little bit too far out of position, and now Dale and Eriador going to take full advantage of that fact. Over on this end, you can see the Earls just massacring these Galadrim Mounted Company. Not even a fair fight. The Mountain Company don't have a chance. Although with the addition of the Knights of the Silver Swan charging hard into the Dalian flank, maybe they got a shot. WK, though, not going to stick around to find out what happens, pulling those Earls out of there as quickly as possible. Looking like he might just be going for a hammer and anvil charge here against this outnumbered brigade of spearmen. It looks like that is exactly what he is doing. A beautiful charge by the Earls into the back of those Sylvan Heavy Spearmen. That's going to be all she wrote for the Sylvan Heavy Spears. It's going to collapse that portion of the line. And now this one unit over here, pretty well Archers, is going to find themselves facing down the Merchant Militia and the elite Dalian Earls all by their lonesome. Over on this side, you can see the WK scrambling to get into position, putting his Barding Herd in loose formation, and putting them in a nice spot that they can defend the flank of their ally Eriador against the cavalry of the Knights of the Silver Swan, while the rest of the Dalian and Eriador combined forces destroy this very, very unfortunate company of Sylvan Heavy Spears. You can see them getting massacred here. They are now actually on the verge of routing. No support nearby, and even these elite spearmen won't be able to stand up for that for too long. Over here you can see some of the Dalian Earls charging into the Sentinels of the Woodland Realm, going to end up picking a fight, perhaps more than they can chew, with the Knights of the Silver Swan. Those Knights of the Silver Swan appear to... It says that the defeat is certain, but honestly, the Knights of the Silver Swan outclass the Dalian Earls in terms of raw power, which is, I believe, why WK is pulling those Earls out of combat as quickly as possible, trying to get them away from the Sylvan, or not the Sylvan, the Knights of the Silver Swan, and probably going... Oh, another nice hammer and anvil charge here into the back of those spearmen. The Merchant Militia holding out just long enough to allow Dale this excellent opportunity to crush the rear of that spear company. Knights of the Silver Swan, big charge here into the Dalian Earls. They don't want a piece of it. Dalian Earls just trying to get out of there, although many of them are going to be massacred in the attempt. And it looks like this is a wise choice here. They're going to charge into the Elder Council, rather, not wanting to get peppered down from the rear by those two javelin units. Now this one is still free. If they want to toss their jabs into those Earls, they will definitely be able to hit them, but I think there's going to be some friendly fire in there as well. These Elder Council are also decent enough medium spearmen, so they are holding out against the Earls better, I think, than most javelin units would. Knights of the Silver Swan coming in from behind. Those Earls just really not having a good time, down now to a meager 19. Elsewhere on the line, you can see that Dale has brought more and more of their forces to bear. This is a significant commitment from Red Team. The Dalish Dalesmen charging at what looks like the Sentinels of the Woodland Realm. Again, WK trying to keep that skirmish line of Lorien busy and tied down for as long as he can, not wanting to get many of his heavy infantry shot down by some of the AP arrows that the Sylvan Elf player has very wisely conserved. These Galadrim veterans firing down into the Earls who are getting just picked off. Yeah, that is some deadly, deadly arrow fire. And looks like the Knights of the Silver Swan following at a safe distance, trying to keep these Earls zoned out. Meanwhile, the rest of his allies with those powerful bowmen there are going to pick these guys off, and that is going to be all she wrote. I think now might even be a good time to just say, you know, these units are going to die. I accept that. Fight those Knights of the Silver Swan on the hill. Maybe we'll manage to take down a reasonable amount of them. Over here, Cinder Archers reforming. Looks like the Dalesmen have been routed, so WK's hand here, where he's trying to tie up some of the line, not working out the way he wants it to. The Dalesmen here have charged into battle against Sentinels of the Woodland Realm, who are losing that quite handily, especially with the addition of these Barding Herd. So, mixed kind of bag here. Red Team has had some victories, they've had some defeats, but they have inflicted, so far, they have inflicted a serious amount of casualties on the forces of Lorien. Rear charge here into the Dalesmen by the Galadrim Mountain Company. Oh, might make that unit rout. That'd be real ugly. And now this is very scary. Dol Amroth has brought the glittering host of the Swan Havens to bear against the attackers. Dol Amroth is in really good order. They've really not taken a whole lot of damage at this point, and there's just not enough Red Team forces on the other ends of the river in order to make a difference against Dol Amroth's and Lothlorien's combined might. So now might be a good time to try and pull some of their forces back and conserve their numbers. And indeed, it looks like, oh no, I thought that maybe they were going to start to pull back now, but with the pressure that Dol Amroth is going to be able to exert on their flank, I don't think it's worth it to stick around here for too much longer. Nonetheless, though, the Sylvan Elves, heavy defeat here for Lothlorien. Just dead elves everywhere. A lot of their lighter troops are gone, and they swept away. Well, they did a reasonable amount of damage, I think, to the Elder Council. Somehow they both came out of that with the exact same amount of troops. That is very strange. But they lost some important heavy cavalry in the process. So, mixed bag there, I think, for Red Team. And Red Team now, this is Dale leading the retreat back to the other side. So there's a unit of Dalesmen here, possibly as a rear guard. Not a bad idea, especially with these Knights of the Silver Swan in the area. These Dalesmen could buy your troops precious seconds, precious moments, and that just might save their lives and allow them to retreat over the river. Ooh, what do we got here? It's the Elder Avari Archers actually shooting into their own troops. I don't know why they would do that. That's very strange. Let's pop on over to the Gundabad side of things and see exactly what's going on over here. And it looks like those Hobbit Archers have been brought to bear against the Witch Realm Pikemen. They're not really going to do a whole lot, but I think what Sin of the Dark Cloud is trying to do is test the Gundabad player's resolve. If he can annoy him enough with those archers, and the Hobbit Archer is definitely an annoyance, then he might be able to force the Gundabad player's hand. If he just gets too frustrated, may make him charge at him, at which point Sin of the Dark Cloud, I think, would have... actually, at this point, he might not have the greatest advantage at all. It doesn't have a whole lot of troops here, although I guess the presence of Lorien is enough to keep the Gundabad player at bay. Plus, he doesn't know what Sin has hidden in the forest for him. So, good call, prudent call on the part of the Gundabad player. But if he sallies over, I think he might be able to do reasonably well before Sin of the Dark can bring the rest of his very stretched out force here to bear rather against the orcs of Gundabad. Moving back over to the other end, Gundabad, or not Gundabad, Dol Amroth, the mere presence of them was enough to frighten Red Team back across the river. You can see it's just an absolute mess here. Von Mountain lost a lot of his heavy infantry, but a lot of them are very expendable. 4 units of merchants, no big deal, especially when you're using them to pin in some more expensive elven units in place and allow your ally to take them down with some of those rear charges like we saw coming in from WK. But so far, so good for now. There's going to be another lull, so I'm going to fast forward, and I will see you guys in a few moments. Alright, so both sides have settled back in on their respective sides of the Anduin, although the balance of power, I have to say, in this area has definitely changed a whole lot. The Lothlorien elves, pretty well gone. They've got a couple of archer companies, I think, still back here, a couple units of Elder Council as well, but for the most part, their army has been shattered by that very aggressive attack from Dale and Eriador. So now Dol Amroth has to hold down both of these choke points all on their own. Although I don't know how much more strength Dale and Eriador have, but there are 2 of them. They definitely outnumber Dol Amroth. So if they want to come over and attack, they do have a few options here, and Dol Amroth, I think, would be pretty hard-pressed to limit their mobility. The elves don't have any of their swift cav left anymore. They've just got their archers and, again, the Elder Council. So they're not going to be able, I think, to run down some of the units that the Eriador has still in their possession. They got a couple units, I believe, of the Greenway Sentries, very swift cavalry that could be used to great effect against Arnor. And indeed, cavalry charges against infantry, even low-tier cavalry, can do some serious work against a unit like, say, these Galadriel veterans, for example. So it's going to remain to be seen what the Red Team wants to do on this end. They have options in terms of attacking, although maybe one more attack would prove to be disastrous for them. But ultimately, I think they came out on top like in the engagement that we saw just a moment ago. But I don't know, maybe they don't want to risk any more of their strength on aggressive attacks across the Anduin. Now, this is where it gets real fun. Gundabad, the Witch Realm pikemen here have stood strong against a relentless arrow assault from hundreds of Hobbit archers, but now it looks like the blue team, wanting to try their own hand at forcing the crossing here, they're going to try and slip past the Gundabad line by scooting through this very narrow area here that the pikemen have left open. Well, this is where Gundabad begins to spring their trap. Look at this. They were definitely waiting for this. This is the kind of fight they wanted to have all along. They wanted to outlast their opponents. They wanted them to push into this choke point, and they've gotten the archers here, look at this, to do some serious work. Woodland Warriors over here. Unfortunately, Sawbone's losing a little bit of micro on them, so they're just kind of standing out in the open and getting massacred by those Goblin Trackers. That's a really efficient trade. I think the Woodland Warriors cost like 800 or so, whereas the Goblin Trackers maybe 250. This is a beautiful use of those low-tier arrows, but the sheer volume of fire that they can bring to bear. And the Witch Realm pikemen holding out strong against the Woodland Warriors. The Woodland Warriors have managed to scoot around a little bit, but they're going to be pressed by an influx of reinforcements here in the form of the Orcish Halberdiers, and they're just going to be driven into the Anduin along with the Hobbits, who are just having none of it. They're fleeing out of there as quickly as possible. Sawbone's now mobilizing 2 units, 2 companies here of the Sylvan Heavy Swordsmen. They're going to charge straight into that Orcish battle line. They're trying to overwhelm them. This is the first wave here for sure. And, yeah, they're going to try and weaken the Gundabad defenses as best they can, so that hopefully Sin of the Dark Cloud will be able to follow it up with a significant investment on his part and push their way through. But Gundabad looking like they might just stand strong. Look at this. So many of these elven units are just not able to get in amongst those pikemen. It looks like Sawbones is trying to just push through, trying to get past those pikes regardless of the casualties. But unfortunately, that strategy is not really working out for him. You can see the Woodland Warriors in the center being absolutely butchered by that pike wall. Over on this end, the Sylvan Heavy Swordsman trying to push home the advantage that the Woodland Warriors gave them. These Woodland Warriors now cut off from any reinforcement and indeed any hope. And they are trapped now behind enemy lines, pinned against the Goblin Trackers and the sharpened, brutal halberds of the Orc Halberdier unit. Over on this end, looks like some of the Warg Skirmishers got themselves, a lot of them got shot down. I think that's because of the Dunedain Bodyguard and the presence of the Gladron Veteran Warriors on the other end. Instead of the Dark Cloud supporting this push from Sawbones with a significant commitment of his skirmish force. You can see some Dunedain Bodyguards there, and now the Dunedain Rangers being activated. All 3 units of them, very, very deadly. I don't think the Gundabad skirmish line can really stand up to this very well. So Gundabad moving in some real heavy hitters. The Guardians of Karn Dûm heading over to the front lines, getting ready to back up the Witch Realm Scourge Raiders, who are here to support what looks like a failing pike wall. It says that they are winning for the time being, but they have taken about half casualties at this point from the Elven charge. And over on this end, the Orcish Halberdiers, so far they are winning against the Sylvan Heavy Swordsman, but this big influx of another unit is going to turn the tide onto that pike wall's flank. And this pike wall getting thin on the ground, looks like the blue team, if they have some more hard units, like say the dismounted Dunedain Knights, for example, they might be able to open the gap that they want and flood through. Yeah, those Orc Halberdiers not having a good time against the Sylvan Heavy Swords. The Guardians of Karn Dûm now moving into the center. I think this is going to be the decisive moment. Those Guardians are going to be able to push back those elves with their high mass and their reasonable attack values. They've also got a lot of armor and a lot of defense in addition to 2 HP. So this is not a fight the Sylvan Heavy Swordsmen can win. I think ultimately they're going to find themselves overwhelmed. Looks like the Gladron Veteran Warriors now out of ammunition. Going to charge headlong into the Orcish line, trying to reinforce this failing left flank here. But they just don't have the numbers, I think. It looks like Sin of the Dark Cloud is now moving in with a couple units of his Dunedain Wardens, looking to take up the center and the right and occupy what remains of the Orcish forces. Now the Goblin Trackers beginning to open fire on these guys. Not going to do too much to them. They've got HP, they've got armor, and they've got shields. And the Goblin Trackers just simply don't have the missile damage needed to really put the hurt on these Dunedain Wardens. Although that being said, with the massed volley fire that we're seeing here, and I think there's some archers also over here in the woods, they may have the ability to fire from a good angle that is going to ignore the shield value of the Dunedain Wardens. And if that happens, then they will probably knock off some HP. Counter volley here from the Dunedain Rangers, firing into the not the Witch Realm pikes, well, the Witch Realm pikes, but the Guardians of Karn Dûm, not going to do too much to them, although the Scourge Raiders and the pikes are going to find themselves in a lot of trouble if that relentless volley fire continues to pour in to the Gundabad center. Gundabad, however, being very judicious with the deployment of his troops, not really blobbing up all that much. He's really playing this the way he needs to, and he's already gone a unit of Black Uruks on their way to shut down those Dunedain Wardens. Now, these Black Uruks have a high attack value, and the Dunedain Wardens are spear units, so they're going to have a malice against a unit like this. 20 charge value going into the front of those Dunedain Wardens. I think that the addition of the Black Uruks is going to be enough to turn this around on the Dunedain Wardens. Unit of Orc Halberdiers here, a lot of cheap units moving in to counter some of the more expensive commitments of Sawbones instead of the Dark Cloud. The Orc player, I gotta say, I'm impressed with the way that he is handling this. He is not panicking, he's not sending in too many troops all at the same time. He's spreading out his troops so that they can present a wide front here so that he doesn't have to just continuously commit units in blobs. This is the way you want to defend a choke point. Gladron Veteran Warriors actually kind of struggling here against this combined arms approach from the Orcs of Gundabad. Orc Halberdiers, now some Goblin Trackers out of ammunition, backing up the Guardians of Karn Dûm. Ooh, that's a lot of friendly fire there too. I think I could see a lot of the Sylvan heavy archers, or the swordsmen, and the Gladron Veteran Warriors actually being caught in that crossfire and cut down by their own archers. Gundabad really fighting hard here. I think that Gundabad's got this. He's got the numbers. Oh yeah, the Dunedain Wardens got a little bit too far ahead of themselves. They don't really have a coherent battle line now, and this large group of them is now surrounded by Halberdiers and the Black Uruks of the mountain. Yeah, and the the fight is swinging in favor of Gundabad. Looks like Gundabad is going to be able to hold the choke point here, and the blue team is going to have much less success than the red team did on the other end in pushing through this initial choke point. Nonetheless, though, it looks like Sin of the Dark Cloud might be bringing some of his units out of hiding, or there's some more reinforcements on their way. Looks like a unit of Elder Council coming over to try and help break up the massive Orcish troops. The blue team still appears to be committed to the idea of pushing through this southern choke point. Let's see what they got left. It looks like most of the Dunedain Rangers are now out of ammunition. Oh, I got a unit of Arnor bodyguards. Oh, they're going to want to be real careful. There's still some pikes on that, or not pikes. There's still stakes on the line. Looks like the Dunedain Rangers might now be committed to the battle. They have reasonable attack damage. I think they've got like 15 attack and 22 defense. That's going to be not too terrible on the line against some of the Gundabad units who have similar attack. But it looks like all of those bodyguards, I don't think that Sin of the Dark Cloud realizes exactly what he's getting himself into, and they're just going to get impaled. Oh, that is tragic. A big, grave misstep there on the part of Sin of the Dark Cloud, of those poor bodyguards. Following it up, however, is going to be the Dunedain Rangers. A large amount of Dunedain Rangers, about 300 or so Dunedain Rangers, charging into battle with their long swords against their hated enemy, the Guardians of Karn Dûm. This is a classic Lord of the Rings matchup. The men of Arnor versus the forces of the Witch King. Those Dunedain Rangers are going to fight with the tenacity of the race of Numenor. Meanwhile, the Orcs of Gundabad, bolstered by the Witch King's dark power, are holding out well against this Dunedain influx. We'll hear that bodyguard now going to retreat from combat, having lost basically the entire unit. Very unfortunate. I don't think Sin of the Dark Cloud realized how many stakes there were for Gundabad. And it looks like a furious charge from the Dunedain Rangers is going to see them through the Gundabad line. These Witch Realm Scourge Raiders not actually going to trade all that well with the Dunedain Rangers, who've got decent enough damage and can actually take down some of these guys. Look at this guy. Look at the balls on him. Big balls. Unfortunately, they weren't made of steel, and they got chopped off by one of the Witch Realm Scourge Raiders. An influx here of Orc Halberdiers. That is going to be a big problem, I think, for these Dunedain Rangers, who are taking a lot of fire as well from the Bandit Javelins. Looks like Eriador has brought some of his skirmish forces to bear, and that has really done a number on the Dunedain. They're in a good position. I think a volley or two is why these Dunedain Rangers have disappeared so quickly. I was just wondering that myself. I mean, there was hundreds of them a moment ago, and they're not bad in melee, so where did they go? What happened? I think those Bandit Javelins happened. They threw their pencils, and they did a ton of damage, and the Dunedain got wrecked. Now, over on the right, it says defeat is certain, but honestly, they're fighting against Orc Halberdiers and Goblin Trackers. So it might be that the forces of Arnor managed to push through on the right, but I think that this is going to be a big loss for Blue Team, and the percentages have really, really evened out. Gundabad has lost a lot of numbers, and Eriador as well has lost a lot of their numbers. However, they have really pulled it back. Previously, I think there was like a 13% difference. Now there is only a 5% difference. Now those Dunedain Rangers, some of them broken, others managing to keep their courage, hold together. They're going to retreat across the bank to the other side and try and preserve their numbers for another fight. Elder Council here looking like they wanted to try and break up some of those packed up units, maybe even counter-snipe some of the Javelins. Always a good thing to try and take down some of the enemy Javelins. They can do a ton of work, as we saw on this choke point, if well deployed and protected. But unfortunately, the Elder Council did not do the damage I think they wanted to, and they're going to lose a significant number of the unit. There's about 60 of them, so they've lost about over two-thirds now of the remaining unit, or the remaining strength of that unit. And now over on the other end, you can see that Dol Amroth being very, very cautious. And I don't blame him. I mean, this is very passive what he's doing. He is just kind of waiting to see the result of the fight on the other end, which is smart, but it is very passive. But he doesn't know what Eriador has over there. Eriador is an ambush faction. There's a lot of places for Dale to hide troops as well, so he's going to bide his time and and wait and see the results of the battle over here in the south. And they were definitely in favor of Gundabad. So I don't think we're going to see Dol Amroth moving in anytime soon to try and pin Eriador in place while his allies sweep through the orcs of Gundabad. I don't think that's going to happen. Gundabad is held very well, and mostly these are expensive, dead blue team troops. So now we're going to settle into yet another lull. This is a very tactical battle. The players definitely took their time on this, not wanting to foolishly lose troops, and I like it. It really kind of gives you the sense of an actual battle. Forces not being suicidal. There's a lot of back and forth. Both generals trying different things to try and test the defenses of their enemies, and it doesn't always work out for them. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to fast forward just a little bit, and I'll see you guys in a few moments. Alright, now we're moving into a very significant part of the battle. This is a little bit of a movement phase here. You can see the Lorien and the forces of Sin of the Dark Cloud are now falling back, but you'll notice that only one of his cavalry units is here. That's because he's got a couple of them hanging out right down here. This is a beautiful little spot to hide cavalry, to hide infantry, to hide anything that you want because of how centralized it is. Most things are necessarily going to come pretty well straight through here, or close enough, making a quick right turn along the bank, that any forces that you have stationed here, especially fast movers like cavalry, can quickly get into them, hit them hard, and then retreat before the advancing forces really have time to know what hit them. But Gundabad not going to take any chances, not going to let himself be caught out like that. You can see some goblin trackers here. I think they're out of ammunition, indeed they are, and his unit of war skirmishers as well, alongside some understrength units of infantry. Some of the survivors from this massive scrap in the center here are going to ford the river and begin to sweep the woods in order to look for any Arnorians who may still be lurking here. So this is really smart, and I have to say I'm impressed with the way that the players have taken their time in this battle. Looks like, oh, the bodyguards charging hard at the Warg Riders. Oh, I don't know if that's going to go quite so well for them. Between the Wargs and the fear that they cause and a charge from the rear by the Goblin Trackers, that's going to be enough to rout those bodyguards, and I don't think we're going to see them come back after this. So Gundabad now, after repelling that small cavalry force, they are going to continue to sweep the woods and to try and suss out any ambushes. Now, if Sin of the Dark Cloud, if his cavalry is discovered, Gundabad will go right back across that river and resume their defense of that choke. I don't want to say camping. They kind of need to camp, and camping has a bit of a derogatory term to it, but indeed, they will continue to camp on the other side of the river and not take the bait, I think, that Sin of the Dark Cloud is offering them right now. However, if they don't see them, if they don't discover them, there's a lot of hidden forces for Sin of the Dark Cloud. Heavy cavalry in the rear, his entire infantry force, along with some of his archers, still in the front of them. Yet to come, yet to play a part in this battle. They're all fresh, haven't fired a single shot. That could be really ugly for Gundabad if Gundabad and his allies, indeed, because some of his allies have forces stationed here as well. That could be really ugly for them if they are caught out in that ambush. What we got over here? It looks like, oh no, some routing woodsmen fleeing across the river, maybe trying to change sides or something. Not really enjoying being on the business end of this very powerful Dol Amroth army. What we got over here? Looks like the ballista crew retreating, being forced to retreat. I'm not too sure by what, but Dol Amroth still holding strong and biding their time. What we got over here? Sindar archers trying to get a piece of those Warg skirmishers. I think the Warg skirmishers managed to charge into them, maybe do a little bit of HP damage. But those Sindar archers, they're going to want to be careful. There's still other Gundabad forces in the area, and indeed, a couple units here have banded javelins from Bomb Mountain. Those two javelins, if they manage to get within range of these guys, oh, it would be beautiful, but it would be terrible. Those Sindar archers would get absolutely smashed. Elder Council surging forward, looking like they're trying to get in range of the Warg skirmishers. Maybe gun them down with a quick volley or two before retreating in the face of on mountain skirmishers. Not a terrible idea. And that's going to be the end of those Warg skirmishers. The Elder Council now have done their job. Light casualties are going to want to flee out of there as quickly as possible because there are those banded javies moving up. Ooh. Oh, that's going to be ugly. Let's put on half speed so we can really enjoy this. Oh, man. 56 Down to what? Yeah, that's like half the unit gone right there in the space of a single volley. Definitely hung around way too long, although Cinder Archers now have reformed, turned around, they're beginning to fire into these guys. They really want to draw them into this ambush that Cinder the Dark Cloud has set up. Cinder Archers playing bait, the Elder Council being bait as well, and actually using up a little bit of those javelin volleys that I'm sure the javelins are going to need in just a few moments. But they're really doing their damnedest to pull Gundabad out of position, make themselves look weak, and get him to commit across the river. Looks like Eriador has actually sent over their trebuchet, which I believe still has ammunition to this end as well to support the war efforts. I don't know. If those cavalry get found or caught out, they're going to be completely isolated if Gundabad discovers them as soon as he crosses the river. But if they move past them and take a sharp turn and head straight down this path, then this will pay off for Cinder the Dark Cloud. So he's not out of the woods. Haha, out of the woods. Exactly where his cavalry is hiding. I'm hilarious. But he's not out of the woods yet in terms of Gundabad finding out what's happening and destroying those heavy cavalry. Knights of Numinas will stand up for a long time to damage, but with all the AP that Gundabad can bring to bear and all the high damage units, especially these anti-cav and anti-armor units like the Orc Halberdiers, for example, if they catch those Knights of Numinas and surround them, oh, it's going to be bad for them. Sawbones, however, really trying to get his foe to commit. Looks, oh, those poor Elder Council fighting hard against the Witch Realm Scourge Raiders and a few Orc Halberdiers. They were doing well. Now, unfortunately, defeat is a certainty, and now I think it's safe to say the Elves have lost all of their Javelin units. I don't think they have any left at this point. All they've got left, I believe, is a unit of Cinder Archers, which is a good thing to have. What are they firing at? I think they might be going after the Trolls. It appears that they are going after the Trolls, trying to shave off a little bit of that AP, while the Cinder Archers not wanting to get caught out by the very swift Trolls from the mountains of Gundabad. They're going to try and flee, but oh, wow, they're reforming. Yeah, they really want to pull them in. Oh, wait, no, there's some Numenorean Shadow Guard over here. I didn't realize these guys were on the map. I have no idea what part they played. Probably something important over here in the big punch-up over on this choke point. I'm sure they're a useful member of the skirmish line. Dealing with some of the Dunedain Rangers, probably. Cinder Archers still pulling back, still trying to draw Eriador and Gundabad into that ambush, and it looks like they're gonna take the bait. You can see the hidden forces of Gundabad suddenly emerging from the trees and sallying forth onto the other end. They have taken some casualties. I think they had a lot more chaff units than they do right now. There's still some scary elites yet to come. The Witch Realm Blackguard, full strength. Guardians of Karn Doom, full strength. Another unit of Witch Realm Scourge Raiders, and a couple units of the Black Ruruks that have been kept in reserve until this late stage. Yeah, this is more than enough here if those cavalry are spotted to deal with them and to surround them and shut them down. But it doesn't look like anybody is really going anywhere near their position. I think that Gundabad is feeling confident at this point. They did a lot of searching around in the woods. They didn't quite come over here. I don't think he was expecting cavalry to be able to hide in an open plain like this, but take a good look. If you play on Anduin, then this is something that can happen to you. There will be hidden units probably in this area because it's so strategically important to have some hidden troops here. But yes, in any case, Gundabad feeling nice and confident, not really expecting an attack. Eriador committing some troops over to this end as well. I think the plan is to attack at the same time, and indeed that seems to be the case. You can see the forces of Dale and what remains of Eriador massing on this end. Dale Dragon Slayers, Bardian Marksmen, what remains of the Dalian Marksmen, and a significant amount of Dalian Marksmen still remains. That's what yeah, I thought they were a lot lower than they were, and there's now some Elder Avari Archers over here who are out of ammunition as well. This is going to be a big commitment. There's going to be like a two-pronged assault here by Gundabad. Looks like... what do we got over here? Nope, Cinder the Dark Cloud still biding his time. They're going to try and smash this wing of the Red Team army. Let's go ahead and let's fast forward just a little bit. Let's see what else the Dalish and Eriador forces can bring to bear. They got their Paladins still left over. They've got some oomph. definitely got some oomph. If both of them converge on Dol Amroth at the same time, I think they'll have an okay time with the infantry fight, but I don't know if they really have any cavalry left over that can deal with the Knights of the Silver Swan. So it'll be an interesting matchup over here, but I think that Gundabad's days are definitely numbered. Let's go ahead and let's fast forward just a little bit here. Gundabad moving into the pass. This is going to be, I think, where the ambush gets sprung. Now, there's really no retreating at this point. Once you get here and you've got cavalry behind you, there's almost no way that you can worm out of it if enough forces are present to block your path. So Gundabad really moving in heavily. I think he believes that there's really not a whole lot left of Arnor. Maybe Arnor went really heavy on the skirmish line. Arnor has showed a lot of units so far. Some of them have been cheaper, but the Dunedain Rangers are nothing to snuff at. And I think maybe Gundabad believes that after his scouting of the woods, that Arnor doesn't really have anything left. And now they have moved in past the pass, past the point of no return. This is going to be where it gets real ugly. Yeah, haplessly chasing the Sindar archers. Vislak moving in over with a unit of his Knights of the Silver Swan. And now is going to be the time for Sin of the Dark Cloud to spring his ambush. Gundabad is just mere yards away. Maybe maybe about 100 or so meters away from his front lines. The Dunedain Trollslayers definitely within range to fire on some of the more important units, like the Guardians of Karn Doom, for example. They could do a serious amount of damage to them with those AP arrows. And boom, the ambush is sprung. Sin of the Dark Cloud moving in with all of his Arnorian forces, a very significant number of these glittering, plate-armored Arnorian soldiers moving towards the Gundabad front line, looking to occupy them. Gundabad in a bit of a panic now. I can see him quickly moving up units towards his front line, trying to present a united front to the forces of Arnor. And in the meantime, rather, you can see the Knights of Inuminas barreling down on the Gundabad back lines. Arnor Knights here as well to support them. Goblin trackers being scattered. These two columns here of these Black Ruruks, obviously in a travel kind of formation. The first line going to get taken in the flank by those Knights of Inuminas. And it looks like the Knights of Arnor might come in from the other side as well. No, they're going to go for the Eriador Trebuchet, trying to eliminate some of that siege weapon superiority. Von Mound managed to hold on to this Trebuchet for so long into this game, and it's now down to like the last 11,000 frames, and unfortunately they're going to get caught up in a cavalry charge. Now I see what they're prioritizing.
They have lost half their men.
This is definitely smarter. The Arnorian Knights charging into the backs of the Javelins. If they didn't do that and just went right for the Trebuchet, the Javelins would have definitely tossed their payload at those Knights and killed most of them, and maybe the Trebuchet would have survived. But this way he kills them first, and then he can round on the Trebuchet and destroy them. Looks like that unit of Black Uruks, or a unit of Black Uruks, pretty well got swept away, and it's going to receive another big charge here from those Knights of Inuminas. This is disastrous. Gundabad is cut off from its reinforcements, while at the same time, its main line is in a vicious scrap to the finish with Arnor. And the Black Uruks here says that they're winning, but honestly, I don't know how well they're doing. Although the Snow Trolls have managed to, I think, crush the Arnorian center, especially with the addition of these Guardians of Karn Doom. This is a beautiful deployment here. The Gundabad player has just bisected the Arnorian army, so maybe this ambush is not going to turn out the way that Sin of the Dark Cloud hopes it is. If the Gundabad player manages to crush the infantry line before the Knights of Inuminas and the Arnor Knights can be brought to bear, then Sin of the Dark Cloud is going to be in a lot of trouble. But I don't think that's going to happen. Most of those men and javelins now have been scattered, fleeing for the hills. Both of them have been destroyed. That would have been really useful against some of the Arnorian heavily armored units, or with taking down the Troll Slayers. But unfortunately, Sin of the Dark Cloud has denied his opponents that advantage, and he's now hurtling towards the back lines. The Witch Realm Blackguard being reformed, facing the cavalry. They're going to be the ones first into the fray. Unfortunately, they did not choose their charge very wisely, and they're going to take it on the chin from the Knights of Inuminas. That's going to leave the Arnor Knights free to do whatever they want. Over here, charging into the rear of the Black Uruks. That is going to seal their fate. Numenorian Shadow Guard trying to lend a little bit of support there, firing into the rear of those Knights of Arnor. But over here, the Dunedain Rangers charging into melee to occupy their Dark Brothers here. These are the equivalent of the Dunedain Rangers for the Kingdom of Angmar, and this is a vicious blood feud that is being settled once and for all. Knights of Arnor apparently didn't like being shot in the rear, and they're going to round on the Numenorian Shadow Guard, charge right into the rear of them. That's going to be the end of that unit. We can see the Gundabad line beginning to fall apart, except over here, where the Guardians of Karn Doom and the Snow Trolls had teamed up together. Where are the Snow Trolls, actually? Oh, I see. Only a couple units of them left here. One of the two remaining... Oh, no. Actually, they're going to charge into the Knights of Numenor. Look at that charge. Knights of the Numenor not able to get their charge off. The Snow Trolls denying it to them. Beautiful play here on the part of Gundabad. They definitely know what they're doing. I've never played with them. I've never heard of the player before, which usually is generally an indication that they're probably a little bit more new at the game. They're not part of the really active community. But damn, I gotta say I'm impressed here. Age definitely showing that he knows what he is about. Those Knights of Numenor have suffered very grievously at the hands of the Snow Trolls, but unfortunately they are buying time. Time enough for Arnor to break the Gundabad right flank and then round on the Snow Trolls, who are going to get themselves tied down in melee with those heavy infantry. Although with the presence of these Witron Blackguard charging into the flank of these very scattered Arthanane Knights, I don't know. Maybe they can bring it back a bit here. Looks like the Knights of Numenor is going to be pinned between some Snow Trolls and some Guardians of Karn Doom. That might be the end of that unit there. I don't know if they're going to be able to disengage from that very effectively. Although in the Gundabad left, they have lost as well the second unit of Guardians of Karn Doom. This is like the shell-shocked remnants of the first unit that he sent into the fray over at the river crossing. They are being soundly beaten by a combination of Arthanane men-at-arms. And actually, I think there's just 2 units of Arthanane men-at-arms there who are able to just surround this tiny shield wall. Orc Halberdiers have now been scattered. That's a lot of Halberdiers that are left in that unit too. 61? Oh, that would have been really nice. That could have potentially turned the tide of the fight here, using the Guardians of Karn Doom as the anvil and the Orc Halberdiers as the hammer. Snow Trolls very strung out, with the presence of the Blackguard not doing too poorly, but the dismounted Dunai Knights have now been brought into the fray, and it is just not working out for them. But let's pop on over to the other end. It looks like at the same time their allies are suffering a serious defeat, the rest of the red team has sallied across the river. They've done a reasonable amount of damage here, I think, to Dol Amroth, though unfortunately these Barding Herds seem to be facing the wrong direction. Oh, I see what they're doing. Yeah, defending the rear from those Knights of the Silver Swan. I believe are being gunned down by the Dale Dragon Slayers. This is looking reasonably even. In certain areas, it seems like the red team is winning, but in certain areas, it seems like the blue team is winning as well. Now over here, you can see that the Bardian Marksmen being driven back by the Belfloss Marines. That's going to shatter the red team's right flank. And it looks like no, the red team still has a fair amount of troops in there. Barding Herd. Although still facing the wrong direction, probably because of the presence of the cavalry, but I think they can turn back around now. Yeah, now those Knights of the Silver Swan have been destroyed. Those Barding Herd can turn around and take on those Knights of those Dol Amroth men-at-arms. And that's a decent matchup here. The Dalian Marksmen backing up Barding Herd, they should be able to hack their way through this heavily armored Dol Amroth men-at-arms. Over on this end, a desperate gamble here. Looks like some of the woodsmen trying to charge into the Tirithir Marksman. Not a great fight for these guys. They will get cut down really quickly, but I think he might just be trying to tie down some of the Dol Amroth skirmish line. Over on this end, the rest of Dol Amroth's forces are now being brought to bear against all that remains of red team over here in the north. The second unit of Knights of the Silver Swan still really healthy. I think that's going to be enough to deal with everything that remains of Eriador and Dale. Over on this end, looks like the Gundabad General has fallen. Charge from the rear here by the Knights of Numenor is going to be enough to see those Orc Halberdiers off. And you can see their line just beginning to fall apart. All that really remains is the Guardians of Karn Doom. Small pockets of resistance here and there. Although all things considered, they've done reasonably well. Looks like the Black Orcs of the Mountains pressing hard against the Dunedain Bodyguard. Looks like they might be trying to push through, but they're getting massacred by those elite swordsmen. I'm not too sure what they're trying to accomplish here. They should just be fighting it out with the bodyguard. They're not going to win this, but try and do at least as much damage as possible. Yeah, all the remains of Gundabad, except for this one unit of Black Orcs, and I think a small pocket of Blackguard, who've been surrounded here by the dismounted Dunedain Knights. are all the remains of Gundabad's once mighty force that he conserved so well. It really is a tragedy. He was very conservative, very prudent with his deployment decisions, didn't blob up more than he had to, and he did a number on Arnor and then the Elves of Lorien. But now, unfortunately, because of this not looking in this one particular corner, all of that work has been undone, and Gundabad has been smashed to pieces by a beautifully executed ambush by Sin of the Dark Cloud with a little bit of help from Sawbones McTavish. Moving on to the other end, the final stand here of the Dalish forces. You can see a lot of their remaining infantry beginning to rout. The Sparting herd, unfortunately, just not going to be able to hang on for too much longer against the Dol Amroth men-at-arms, and they are being overrun as well. I guess it's just these Dale Dragon Slayers who are the only ones still left on the battlefield. They were firing into Vislak's Knights of the Silver Swan. This is a great unit for skewering a heavy cav unit like the Knights of the Silver Swan. But unfortunately, with all the interference here from the Dol Amroth infantry, which is obviously deliberate on the part of Vislak, he doesn't want to get this knight shot down. So he's going to occupy these Dale Dragon Slayers, keep them in melee for as long as possible, where they are not really able to fire effectively, if at all. That is ugly, though. There's a lot of dead Dol Amroth men-at-arms there. I think what happened, indeed, one of the units of Rivermen managed to get in behind them. Unfortunately, we missed it because we were taking a look at the action on the other side. They managed to do some serious work against the Dol Amroth battle line, which almost helped Dale roll up Dol Amroth's line before the Belfalos Marines were brought to bear. Dale Dragon Slayers waging a very small guerrilla war, desperately trying to get some shots off at those Swan Knights.
Behold how our cowardly foe runs. It's time to press.
But unfortunately, those Dale Dragon Slayers are eventually going to be caught here and overwhelmed. You can see some Tier 3 marksmen holding them down, trying to keep those guys locked in melee for as long as possible so that these Knights of the Silver Swan can get enough distance so they can wheel around and charge. And indeed, they're going to get the charge this time. A brutal charge into the Dragon Slayers. I think it cost the Knights of the Silver Swan quite a lot to do that, however. They must have been reasonably wounded. Dale Dragon Slayers now, however, down to 9 men. Not enough to defeat the hordes of Dol Amroth that still remain. Now, what do we got here? It looks like Von Mountain's forces, a large number of Dunedain Rangers that were held in reserve until this late portion of the battle, are going to fall back with some of his Foreshell Gatekeepers and his Foreshell Captains. Still 13 of them. They've got a lot of HP and a lot of damage that they can bring to bear. So 13 of them can do a reasonable amount of damage to the warriors of Dol Amroth. They're going to fall back and put up a last stand on this hill. The Dunedain Rangers, they don't run from fights. And in keeping with the courage set by their ancestors who sailed out of Numenor, they're going to serry their ranks and stand against their enemies in one final glorious battle. In the meantime, the men of Dol Amroth, fresh from a crushing victory over Red Team, are now sallying forward. Most of their front line, I think, has really suffered quite heavily. Some of these Dol Amroth men-at-arms still have quite a lot left in them, but that's just because Vislak was able to keep his force so fresh and so healthy for so long. The 2 Red Team forces really had their hands full fighting the elves, and damn, look at this hill. This is like Hamburger Hill here. But yeah, Red Team, they did a lot of damage to Lothlorien. They practically knocked them out of the game, but unfortunately they did suffer some pretty heavy casualties in return. I don't think they just didn't have the numbers to overwhelm Dol Amroth. If they had those 4 units of merchant militia, for example, still available to them, they might have had a chance. The sheer numbers may have allowed them to surround Dol Amroth and deal some significant damage. But as it is, Dol Amroth's still very strong, and they're going to be the first into battle against Von Mountain and his Dunedain.
Our army is tiring.
What do we got here? Looks like the Nimrodel Rangers moving forward. They probably wanted to get a piece, I imagine, the Foreshell Gatekeepers. Definitely the most dangerous unit still remaining on the field for Von Mountain. Even though there are 35 of them, they can still do some serious work. What do we got over here? Looks like the Sindar Archers from Sawbones. Trying to be the first ones in. I don't think that's going to go very well for them. See how they are leading the charge, but damn, Von Mountain is really just peppering these guys down. glorious crossfire there. It's going to cut down most of the Sindar bodyguard. Finally, they get their charge going, charging into the front of these gatekeepers. Many of those gatekeepers are going to die, but honestly, they're just there as a distraction. One final arrow volley is going to scythe down the Lorien general, and that is going to be the end of the Lorien army. They have now been knocked completely out of the game.
Behold how our cowardly foe runs. It's time to press the attack.
Now let's see what's going on here. Dol Amroth moving forward as well. Belfalos Marines looking to be the first wave. Maybe waste a little bit of the remaining Dunedain ammunition. Meanwhile, the rest of Vislak's force seems to be going in hard altogether rather than piecemeal like those Belfalos Marines. Yeah, that leads me to believe that these guys are just out here kind of as a distraction to prevent them from shooting, or at least to offer him a easy target in exchange for not shooting his halberdiers. Belfalos Marines now the next ones into the fray. Dunedain Rangers, that big line of them, winding up. Whoa, that's pretty ugly. Another volley or two like that, and that could see these Belfalos Marines off for good. Let's see what we got over here. Knights of the Silver Swan, charging hard uphill towards those Dunedain Rangers. I think these guys are quite tired, so that might be hard for them to get that charge off. No, looks like they're gonna do it. They're gonna drop those lances and run smack into those Fortshell captains. Fortshell captain's gonna take it on the chin, lose 3 of their own in the assault. Meanwhile, the Knights of the Silver Swan have wheeled back out, and they're gonna get in amongst the Dunedain Rangers. Belfalos Marine's gonna rout pretty much immediately, but those Knights of the Silver Swans, they are going to connect. Those Fortshell captains are gonna ride hard right after them. Yeah, Vislak has now managed to run his Knights of the Silver Swan straight through the Dunedain, possibly setting himself up for a rear charge. I know exactly what he's going to go for. Well, maybe I don't. Oh, looks like Vislak is going to... No, never mind. The Knights of the Silver Swan have started to rout. Not something to see every day. And they are now fleeing for the hills. But most of Dol Amroth's army, in the meantime, have managed to get very, very close to Vislak's front line. It looks like Arnor is bringing everything else that they have as well. Dismounted Dunedain Knights. This is going to be very, very ugly for the remaining... Oh my goodness, my apologies. My secondary hard drive actually ran out of space. So here you are, the final few frames of the battle. Dol Amroth's forces now pressing hard for the front line. Sin of the Dark Cloud doing a real good thing here, keeping as many of these archers occupied and running them down with his cavalry as he possibly can. Meanwhile, Dol Amroth bringing up the back with everything they got left. I think that Von Mountain now realizes that this is game over. A charge from the rear into those Dunedain Rangers is going to be enough to rout them. Even the Dunedain losing courage in the face of this overwhelming advantage. Another hammer and anvil strike into those Dunedain. That is going to rout them, and this is basically all she wrote for Von Mountain's forces.
Victory is ours.
And there you have it. Blue team pulled off a fairly narrow victory. I think it was within 10% of each other, so it's not like a huge advantage. But in any case, everyone did reasonably well. Von Mountain got not as many kills as you would expect, but then that's Eriador for you. He was definitely present in some important areas, and he did manage to silence, for the most part, the trebuchet of Vislak. So despite the kills, he was still a valuable member of the team, and I hope you guys have enjoyed this so far. Coming up next, we're going to have some more Let's Plays. Probably won't do any more 4th Age, but I do want to finish. I'm desperately trying to finish our Techless campaign, getting as far as I can in that as quickly as possible. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this. I've been Jordan, also known as JMonster. I will see you next time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.